Hello and welcome to today's episode. I am so excited to be joined today by Janine Coney from Own Your Style UK. She is a personal brand, image and success coach. Hi Janine, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure, and we've been trying to get together for a little while because I know this conversation is going to be so incredibly valuable for our listeners. So let me tell you a bit about Janine. So Janine's coaching service helps motivated, ambitious women in business and female entrepreneurs to discover confident strategies and a unique toolkit to create a powerful personal brand and image for life. Time to be seen, heard and remembered. I love that. That's so exciting. So Janine is an accredited style coach, image consultant and marketing professional, and has worked in media, marketing, branding, HR, events management and styling for 30 years or so. Can't quite fathom, you must have been terribly young when you started.
Oh, bless you, being very kind now. You've been very kind.
She has worked with some of the leading coaches worldwide through styling and personal branding, learning firsthand how a confident personal image can truly empower you. And I came across Janine through a friend who is a client of Janine's, and was just kind of really had this experience that she wanted to share with the world, and I felt that it was that Janine has something to offer that I felt would be massively valuable for us to talk about. So I guess the kind of starting point for me is that when people go through traumatic experiences, they tend to lose their confidence and their sense of self. And I feel like image is a massive part of that.
Yeah, it is a massive part of it. And there are lots of life experiences that people go through, I think from a very early age as well, that kind of change and make us kind of conform and become the person that we think we ought to be. And what I find with a lot of people from a style point of view is we find that, are they actually dressing for themselves, or are they dressing for someone else, or are they dressing for a life they have, or are they dressing for a life they used to have? And a lot of people get lost in their style, and a lot of people are trying to emulate somebody else's style, but actually it's not right for them. So it's quite incredible how your image and how you are seen is obviously a big part of what you are. I know that a lot of people feel that image can be, well, maybe it's something, you'll hear a lot of people say, well, does it really matter what I wear? Does it really matter what people think of us? And actually, we're all human and we are built to care what other people think. So when people say, I don't care, they kind of do, really. And your image is a big part of how you're seen as well, a big, big part of it. So you want to make sure that it's reflecting the true you. And what I find with so many women is actually that they've lost themselves throughout the decades, and reflecting themselves just doesn't become easy, and they don't feel confident in themselves and they feel lost.
Yeah, I think we were talking before we started recording about the fact that often you go from being somebody's daughter and conforming as a teenager to fit in with all your friends, to being perhaps a wife and a mother, where it's a whole different type of conforming. You've got the school gates to worry about, or being the kind of glamorous lover on somebody's arm. And you kind of, whether you even ever find yourself in all of that before you come out of the other side. And I think quite often when you come out of divorce, it's perhaps the first time you're getting to know yourself. What's your experience with that?
Okay, well, I've got two things there. I mean, having been through a divorce myself at a very young age, but let's go back to that. One thing you said earlier when you're talking about teenagers and what have you. So you think when we all come out the womb and we're running around as toddlers, actually, we don't give a damn. We don't give a damn what we're wearing. We don't really care what anybody's thinking of us. That's just built in us because obviously we have to learn to behave, in certain situations, and we learn You know, when somebody says to us when we're very young, somebody, you know, it happens, it's part of growing up, you know, we feel self-conscious in what we're wearing, or something that we've worn to school, that suddenly that embeds in us, and all those things we then take through with us throughout our like teenage life into our 20s, and that they all sort of make a massive impact. But going back to what you said, from my point of view, when I was very young, actually I got married at 21, and we were, it was, you know, very young really then, and yeah, it didn't last that long. It was like 18 months. We won't go into obviously all the details of that, but afterwards I had a choice of whether I could have, obviously at that age would have been very easy to have gone home, or whether to actually, you know, gone home as in gone home to my parents' house. But I decided I wasn't going to do that. And actually my image and how I felt, because I lost a lot of weight through the stress and anxiety, and I was suffering very, very badly with panic attacks at that time. But it was actually my image and clothes and how I felt that kind of were my armor and my strength through that particular time. And it was a kind of a rebirthing period of myself too, which I know we'll talk about in more detail, in how I kind of discovered myself. And actually that was like a catalyst to lead me eventually to where I am in what I do and how I help women now. And I think what I went through in those sort of my early 20s and my 30s kind of built me, as it does all of us, into who I am, what I am, and what I do today, and how I help women in their image today, because I know how important it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really interesting, your description of a rebirth. I think that a lot of people coming out of the other side of divorce do find them. I use this analogy quite a lot, that it feels like almost you've been in this chrysalis and you kind of burst out of your chrysalis. And I watch women kind of grow their wings and start to fly as they find who they really and truly are. And you must see that in your work as well.
Well, I do. And I've seen it throughout the years of other people as well, who've said to me at the time, how did you cope with it, or whatever? And anybody who's been through it can say that and look back in hindsight and go, you will be okay. But when you're going through it at that time, obviously dependent on situations, but I don't think it matters what the situation is. When you've split from somebody, you're sad and there's been time invested in it and everything else. And, you know, I just feel that taking that time then to kind of rediscover who I was. But for me, I don't even think I was doing that at that point. I was just surviving. And clothes and how I looked were my way of getting through that situation. And I look back on that now and I think, how sort of strong is that they had that much influence on me. I have to say, it wasn't until I started doing the inner work, because as I said, I was suffering quite badly with anxiety at that time. That didn't go away. And that's a very interesting point to make, because some people can go, well, I've dressed like that, why don't I feel better? So that might give you how you want to look on the outside, but it doesn't always change how you feel on the inside. And that's why it's really important. And it kind of leads me on to another thing I know we're going to talk about, but that's why it's important to reconnect with who you are on the inside, and to discover how you want to be seen, how you don't want to be seen. And it's all about your personal brand, who you are, what your values are, what you stand for. And then you're able to connect with the person that you want to portray, that you want to be seen as. And you're not going out there trying, even sometimes, you know, not consciously, but trying not to be somebody else, or trying to step into the shoes of somebody else. And then that's when true self-confidence comes through, when you understand who you are on the inside and how you want to portray that on the outside as well. And that can serve you well in any stage of your life or your career.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. A few things that you said there. Quite often I work with people who come and see me right at the beginning of the process as they're separating and about to go through divorce. And quite often I'll suggest they go and see somebody about the emotional aspect, a coach or a therapist, to give them support through that. And what I've found is that the people who don't get that support really early on need it much later. you know, it might not be immediately following divorce that they find they need it, but suddenly it'll hit them like a truck. And it'll be like, yes, now I need that help, and I can speak to that personally because I didn't get the help up front. And then it hit me much later that I needed that emotional support, and that to do that work on the inside of me. And I'm still doing that, you know. It's I've been working on the inside of me for the last 2 years, and I know I'm a work in progress. I think I'll probably always be a work in progress.
Everybody is. We all evolve, we all change. The trouble comes when actually people don't think that they can evolve or change, and they get a bit stuck. But we all evolve and change, you know, whatever period of our life we're in, and we're always developing, and we always have to learn more about ourselves, and the inner work is constant. But actually, and I talk about this a lot, we have to learn as women to be our own best friends, okay? Because one of the things you think, and I'm not going to put you in, I'm not going to ask you, but you think probably about how you talk to yourself sometimes in the mirror.
Oh yeah.
You know, if we think about what you say, would you ever say to a friend what you say to yourself sometimes in a mirror? And this, you know, I talk to women about this a lot when we do my retreat days, and we wouldn't, would we? We would get rid of friends, but we do that to ourselves. So we have to learn. One of the first steps is learning, and one of the first things I do with people, because people think the first thing I'll do is go into somebody's wardrobe, but it's not. It's actually way down the line. One of the first things we do is talk about you, talk about the person, talk about how they are, how they feel, how they want to feel, you know, and it's about that inner confidence and about generally being kind to yourself. And it's a lesson in life that I think we all have as women in general, because we charge around the place doing 1,000 things, being everything to everybody else, and actually leaving ourselves with very little for ourselves. So we have to learn to love ourselves first. And that's like one of the biggest lessons, and the whole imposter syndrome. And so, yeah, it's kind of, you can see it when we work on all those things, and then you start working on all the stuff on the outside as well about how you look and feel. You can see that the two together, you're like, yay, I feel great.
That's such a massive thing, isn't it? To start to speak kindly to yourself, and as you say, to love yourself. And you know, you hear quite often people saying, well, you're not be able to love somebody else until you can love yourself, and that we're not great at loving ourselves. I don't know if it's an English thing or if it's a global thing, but I think maybe it's a British thing.
Well, you think we're generally brought up, you know, don't be selfish, think of other people before yourself. You know, and we do, and let's be honest, those of us who've got children put our children, obviously we do, we put our children. And I'm not suggesting when we say love ourselves and be kind to yourself before everybody else that you're like turning into like the most selfish person on the earth. But one question, right? So another thing I'll do with a group is I'll say to people, write down your 5 top things that you need to get done today, because I want your brain to be clear. So write down for me the top 5 things that today you need to get done. And we'll do that. And not one of those things that they've written down will be make time for myself. Sometimes somebody might put, I'm going to the gym, but never is it, I'm going to make time for me time, which is something we should carve out for ourselves, even if it's like 15 minutes. We all know about this. In whichever way, form we can, we should try and carve out some time for ourselves, for our own mindset to, you know, I don't want to get too woo-woo on you, but, you know, it's just really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even that, I was listening to, I'm a bit obsessed with Rangan Chatterjee at the minute. And I was listening to his podcast. He was, well, him talking on Johnny Wilkinson's podcast, which is called I Am, which is fabulous. If you've never heard it, it's great. And he was talking about how even standing in a coffee shop queue, you'll still be on your phone checking Instagram, sending an email, getting something done, where, you know, 10, 15 years ago, you didn't have that in your hand constantly on the go. So you'd be looking around, you might see somebody you know, you might say hi, you might chat away to somebody you've never met before, but it would just be that kind of space to give your brain to kind of just absorb, be in the moment, take in what's going on. And I think Like we don't plan for that, but we don't even allow it to happen when we don't plan for it.
No, and social media, again, you know, it's got so much to answer for now, isn't it? I mean, I suggest to people, you know, the first thing in the morning is not to pick up your phone. And so many people's, and I've been guilty of it too, you know, it's picking up your phone, and then you're lost down a rabbit hole, aren't you, of checking emails, looking at the news, looking at Instagram, looking at a feed, and you can actually bring your mood down before you've even started the day. And years ago, it just wasn't there, was it? You didn't do that. You know, and we have to I think it's about setting boundaries and managing our time and managing what we do. And that has to become part of it now, is managing our mindset and setting our day up the right way.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I think that is really important. One of the things that you've mentioned is personal brand.
Yeah.
And that's kind of quite a new phrase.
I think it is a new phrase. Yeah. And it's a really interesting one.
Yeah. It's like, I find it hard to know what it actually means. In fact, I think brand is quite difficult, because if you look at, you know, even the kind of commercial brands that we think of, you know, McDonald's and what have you, people quite often think that it means the logo and the colours.
Always they think that the brand is the colours and the logo. And actually only somebody said to me this morning, well, am I a brand? And every single one of us is a brand, especially in this digital world. If you go Google yourself and see what, you know, what comes up, that's what other people will find out about you. And you know, in the world of you know, where people are dating online, where people apply for jobs online, I know, having worked in HR, people will look people up, you know. So we all have the ability to manage our own brands. But going back to your question, kind of what is a brand when it's a personal brand? Well, your personal brand is, your personal style is obviously what you're wearing on the outside. Yeah, your personal brand is who you are on the inside and how you reflect it on the outside. It's basically your reputation. It's what other people say about you when you leave the room, and you want obviously that to be positive stuff. Yeah, so when you're in business, that really counts more than any other time. And not just in business, when it's your career, when you're going for a job interview, or you're looking to move up the career ladder, you want people to be saying the right things about you, but you also want them to be hearing and reading the right things about you too. And when you walk in a room, I don't know whether you've heard this before, you only have 7 seconds to make a first impression on somebody that you've never met before. And that's before you've even spoken a word. Yeah. So we don't think we're doing it, because I know, and I've done it too. I'd be like, no, I don't form an opinion, but subconsciously we do it. Okay. So when it's in a particular situation, and let's, you know, keep this real, if it's in an interview scenario or walking in, I mean, most people don't like walking in a pub or a restaurant straight away, or you're meeting a stranger. Within like that first few seconds of their meeting, they will have formed an opinion of you. So I'm not talking when you go down to Tesco Express to pick up your Sunday newspaper, but let's be honest, that's always the time you bump into somebody, isn't it? When you don't want to. But when the times when it really counts, you want your personal brand to come across, and you need it to represent you. Now, if you are professional in business, or, you know, or whatever your career may be, then you want to put across an authentic, you know, or an authentic version of yourself, not even a version of yourself, version. You want to be totally authentic in who you are, because if you're not, well, ultimately you'll get found out, because you can't try and be somebody else for too long. So you need to find out who you are, and you need to display what your values are, what you believe in, you know, so that people can connect with you, so that they make a true, emotional, genuine connection. Because at the end of the day, when you are working with other people, whatever people, I don't want to say people buy from people, because that's the old-fashioned phrase, but people connect with people, they buy from people. They don't, you know, it's all about making a true connection. And when you understand your personal brand, that's about understanding what you are on the inside as well as what you are on the outside as well.
I think you're absolutely right on that, because I think even in the days of social media, we're all the more out there, aren't there?
Yeah.
Aren't we? You know, I know that quite often my clients will have listened to my podcast or seen my YouTube channel or connected with me on social media, and they'll have an image of who I am and what I'm going to be like to work with even before I know who they are, because they hide in plain sight. And it's not about, it's not about them actually hiding, it's just that they've not directly connected with me yet, but they might be watching what's going on, they might be watching the sort of person that I might be, and I need to make sure that whatever that is that I'm portraying is what I want people to think about me. And I think that's what you're saying.
That's exactly it. Yeah, you want it to be the right message that people are getting. Now, where it gets bigger is obviously then if you start employing people, so that's your personal brand, then your brand becomes your business brand as well as your personal brand, and you want those people who are working for you to be reflecting your brand and representing your brand. But ultimately, we are our own personal brands, and that's why it's so important that we get that right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really fascinated by how what's inside of me and what I am learning about what's inside of me, how you get into that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'm going to start with that question. How do we get into really, finding out who we are when we've come from a place where we perhaps haven't been able to be ourselves for a long time?
Okay, well, let's talk about this from when people come to me from a style point of view and when I'm helping them pull out their personal brand. It starts with a conversation of who are you and how do you want to be seen? Yeah. Where are you in your life and what's important to you? What are your values? Yeah, what are your real values? And a real deep one here is like, especially when you've got children or people around you, is like, what values do you instill in your children? Because I bet you there'll be values that are really, really important to you in your life too. And do you stand by those values? Are you living by those values? And then I will also, when we're talking an image point of view, I will say to somebody, right, how do you feel you're seen right now? Is it how you want to be seen? And then we'll go into those sort of deeper questions from there. Ultimately, they'll start to sort of say, no, I'm not, I'm feeling stuck, or, my life's changed and I don't really know where I am or how to take my style forward. And I don't like my body too much at the moment. And what do I do about that? But then we start looking at, like, well, how do you want to be seen then? And I'll always suggest that they have a look at something like a Pinterest board, and I will start building one with them. And I'll say to people, don't start asking for other people's opinions here. Start looking at it yourself and start pinning things onto your board that just resonate with you. I don't want you to be, I would never wear that at the moment. I don't want to be doing the whole, no, I couldn't afford that at the moment. I just want you to just start really resonating with the things, the pieces that stand out to you, as well as the pieces and things that stand out to you in an architectural kind of way or in a lifestyle kind of way, just so that we can start building and they can really start looking at who they are and what they like. And then we start to pull out the words from that as well, because a lot of people will talk about like comfort. Comfort comes up a lot for people, especially in what they're wearing, but also in their lifestyle with the things they have around them. So that draws quite a lot out as well, because you've got to understand your own personality and who you are. And that's a big part of it. And some people haven't actually stopped to delve in and go, oh, who am I? What do I really believe in? This isn't just about personal brand. This is just, personal style, yourself. What do you actually believe in? What's really important to you? And then when we start to build the mood board and we really start to look into it, there's a series of questions I take people through, which then helps them define which is within, like, there's 5 different style personalities that they can fall into. So we'll look at that and we'll go, okay, we understand what your values are. And a lot of when people say to me what's really important to them, it's amazing how that then comes through into their personal, their style personality as well.
Really?
Because
I'm stunned by that.
Absolutely, it comes out massively. For instance, there's if you are a natural style personality, comfort is usually key to you. Okay, so then I will find that those people will have been pinning loads of things as a just to hone in on one that sort of fall into that, or they'll talk about their life and how they don't really want to push any boundaries too much. And yeah, so there's just different things that people say that kind of start lending me, and I think, right, I can see where you're looking to go here. Also, another thing is you start asking people about how they used to dress when they were, like I started off the day when they were a child. Did you like dressing up? And I had a client who, she used to love like shoes and handbags and like, but sort of wacky sort of styles. And yet, but she turned over the years very corporate because she'd worked in corporate. So she turned very corporate. And when we realized that she'd been suppressing that sort of that dramatic part of her style personality that still wanted to come out and be seen. I've had women come to me who have been in their 50s or 60s, and they have said, I feel like I can't wear color anymore. I need to I should just wear black. It's like, why do you feel like you should just be wearing black now? Because people do as they get older. And actually we discovered that she had a real bubbly personality. And if you have a real bubbly personality, do you generally want to be hiding away in black all the time? No, you don't. You want that to be coming through, because the psychology of color is really, really strong as well. And the power of color in what you wear and your mood and how it affects other people's moods. So, those are all things that I can really start to see if somebody's like pinning loads of items that are very dark. Okay, why are you doing that? Does that match your personality? Why do you think you can't wear that? So it's all like piecing together. Think of it as a big puzzle. So we're starting to look inside you and say, like, what's important to you? Where do you want to go in your life? How are you going to get there? Can we get you there? Because we look at that. And then we're starting to look at okay, let's look at your personality. And does your style reflect your personality or not? And then we move on to the more sensitive subject of body shape, which I wish it wasn't called body shape, because I don't like categorizing people into boxes at all. It's not, I just find that it's probably the area with most women that they feel most sensitive about. And let's be honest, if we all know what the body shapes are, who wants to be sat there and said, well, you're a round or something like that? Yeah, you don't, do you? If you are carrying more weight on your tummy, you don't want to be. It's just, I don't find it that very positive experience for people. So I work around that in a very different way as well. And I would always talk about understanding the rules of dressing, and dressing to balance your proportions. And that's a whole other subject altogether about doing all of that, horizontally and vertically. But it's about accentuating your best parts, balancing your proportions. And, this is no news to everybody, but you know what? We all have wobbly bits. Most things you see in photographs, in magazines, and are airbrushed. We all have wobbly bits that we don't like, but we're usually way more conscious of them than anybody else is. And we have to learn to embrace again and love our bodies, and learn how to make the best of those parts. And if we need to draw attention from other parts of our body, then I help women discover how to do that and how to wear their clothes with confidence. So we kind of go through, if you can see, like a bit of a systematic approach, but it always starts with the inner work, and then pulling out the style personality, and then looking at, let's just call it as it is, sort of body style, body shape, and how to wear things and how to look good and feel good. And by that point on its own, I've usually always seen people's confidence like totally sort of changed around. And then, only then after that, do I start going into people's wardrobes. And only after that do we ever go shopping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in my services, I don't take people shopping initially. For me, if you want to do that, then you can go into a shop and you can do that. And there's some great shoppers in the shops. But what I would say there is they don't know you inside out.
Yeah.
Do you know yourself inside out? They don't know you. And I've heard lots of stories about people who've bought clothes you know, who have been brought to them in the changing rooms, and they bought them, taken them home and not worn them. And actually only 20% generally of women's clothes get worn, 80% stay unworn in their wardrobes. That's the statistic. So I want to change that around, especially in this day and age with people trying to be more sustainable. Anyway, I haven't drawn breath there for about 5 minutes, have I? So I'll let you speak.
I think that's, I can follow that through and think how that kind of makes sense. And so the last episode we recorded was about starting to date again. And the thought that of somebody having gone through this process with you, discovered who they are, and kind of grown that confidence and that understanding of their personality, that's got to be a heck of a step to take before you start thinking about putting yourself out there.
It's incredible, because obviously Emily went through, from a personal branding point of view with her business, and she went through this with me, and it was really, really interesting. I know she won't mind me talking about this, but and we when we got into Emily's wardrobe and we went out shopping, and it was kind of incredible how much she discovered about herself at that time. Because when I take people shopping, it isn't me going out and going, right, this, you're going to wear this. I want, in a way, people to be able to pick things up and go, right, I think this is right. Is it right? And me going, yeah, you've got it. Or sometimes what happens is they'll pick something that they would have picked before, and they'll go, I'm going to try this. And I'm going, are you sure? And they go, yes. And then they try it on. They go, no, you were right. So it's kind of like a learning situation, and it's like pushing those boundaries as well. But Emily walked into an event we were both at in the summer last year. It was, I think, 2 days after we'd been shopping. And it was a moment I won't forget, because she walked in a different person, were like glowing. And it was one of those head turning moments for the women who were there as well. And they just turned around and they were like, Emily. And it wasn't just in what she was wearing. It was her confidence that she had in herself. Absolute confidence. So she was holding it. She was just like, yeah, it was an incredible moment. But and she'd just been through that whole process. So imagine that in a dating situation as well. If you're going out, or just, building your confidence back up after you've been through a very, very difficult time in your life. And maybe not everybody has, I know, but maybe you've felt suppressed. Maybe you haven't felt like you for years. Maybe you've been dressing to please somebody else for years.
Yeah, and I'm sure plenty of people do. One thing that's coming up for me as I'm chatting to you, and I'm kind of thinking of for myself and the ways that I dress. I at home, I'm like give me the most comfortable, like slobby, don't really care what I look like. I know you said people say they don't care, but I really don't care what I look like.
You're behind
be joggers, comfy stretchy jeans that and like a chuck on the top, and I'm kind of thinking, right, I've got that style, non-style, and then there's kind of the work version where I might be a little bit more formal, although not corporate, because I can't. The people that I'm working with, they don't want shiny suit or corporate. They're kind of having a hell of a time, and they want someone who can hold their hand. So, and then I've got I'm going out on a night out. I can't wear killer heels because my feet are a bit stuffed, but like if I could wear killer heels, that would be killer heels. And like I'm going to put makeup on, which I don't normally wear. And I'm going to get a little dress or like something glamorous. Those are kind of all sides of, and I've not worked with you.
Yeah,
I'm going to say yet. So you might be sat there going, oh my God, put all those in the bin. But that there's different kind of levels of style that I think probably all of us have at some point. You look terribly glamorous today.
I'm
hoping that you don't sit at home looking like that, watching the
Let
telly.
it be known. No, I am well into my joggers. Okay. Yeah, I'm well into my joggers. And I think all of us, especially over lockdown, got, well, let's just say overly comfortable in our joggers and things like that. And that, I don't think that's going to change too much. What I have found is that those of us who work from home as well have, you know, and I'm sure you'll testify to this too, is there's only a certain amount of time that you feel totally productive when you are working from home and you are, let's call it duvet daying it every day, and you're in your pajamas, what have you. After a few days of doing that, you're kind of like, I'm not being the most productive version of myself. I don't feel like the best version. Yeah. But in saying that, we all do that. We all have a Sunday, let's call it a slob out day or what have you. But ultimately, when I'm talking about sort of your brand and your style, it's like when we step outside and what we're going to be doing from that point of view. But so yes, rest assured, you see me on a Sunday morning, I do not know where that is. And then you would talk about different style personalities. So when we work on somebody's style personality, even what you've said there all lead to, in my mind, which I don't try not to do, is because I never know until we've been through the whole asking all the questions. But there's been a lot of things that you've said there. You've talked a lot about, you know, I'm not going to wear high heels and it's going to be comfortable and it's going to be, yeah, you're laying those statements down. But that is where it's interesting, okay? Because then when we start asking the questions, we can start finding there's those little parts of you, like you've said, you like the high heel, and you've said there's a dress, you know, you wouldn't, now a lot of women going out would be jeans and a nice top. We always go jeans and a nice top, don't we, on a Friday night out with the girls kind of thing. But you've actually said there's a dress there. So that's given me like a little bit of a clue there that there is something in there more from you that would want to glam up a little bit. I get you on to choose from. Yeah. So people never fall just into one style personality. They'll fall into one or two. They have a dominant and a secondary. But ultimately, as well, what it does point out is what you aren't. Okay, and what a lot of women do is they'll see a trend and they'll buy into a trend, or they'll see a friend wearing something and then they'll think, I'm going to try that, but it doesn't feel like them. When you actually understand what your true style personality is, you stop buying into those trends. And I always say to people, don't let the trend choose you, you choose the trend. Because we all see trends and fashions change all the time. And, you know, you don't have to buy into a trend. You don't have to. Just because something's on trend, we don't have to wear it. And I think we're actually much more accustomed to that now. I think when you're younger, you feel like you need to buy into a trend, but you don't need to. And actually, we need to build a wardrobe that has longevity and a wardrobe that makes us feel amazing in ourselves. And that's ultimately what we want to do. But it has to serve your life. And one of the other things we do is look at your lifestyle. So I'll say to people, right, what do you spend most of your time doing? Because how many people do this as well? I know loads of women who listen and will relate to this. You go out, and I'm sure this comes from childhood too. You buy something to go out in. I'll wear that top because it's nice to go out in. I'll buy that sparkly top because that'll be nice to go out in. And then you go, how often do you go out? Actually, I don't go out
twice a year.
Okay, so you're buying, when you go out, what happens is, here's a big one, is we think it's okay to buy ourselves and treat ourselves to something for wearing out. But why do we not feel it's okay to buy ourselves something nice to wear to sit indoors at the weekend? Like, okay, let's go back to jogging, that you can get some great, beautiful elevated joggers and jogging, but we don't. What happens is when I go through wardrobes, people will go, that's just for wearing indoors. That old thing's for just wearing indoors. So actually we start to invalidate ourselves with what we wear at a weekend, because we're saving either stuff for best, which never gets worn and gets left in the wardrobe unworn. We're spending our hard-earned money on that. Yeah. But we're not spending our hard-earned money on actually maybe making ourselves feel really good every day, or on something nice to wear just at the weekend, because I'm going to be sitting on my settee binge watching Netflix, but I want to actually feel comfortable and just feel good in what I'm wearing, rather than just old stuff all the time.
This is resonating with me so much. I'm like, my Tesco's joggers that are sat in my wardrobe
And I'm
next
sure
to
they
the
come to
fancy dress that I've worn once to a financial services ball. You know, that's like, what, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And what you've just said, it's like, it doesn't make any sense, but we all do it, don't we?
Yeah.
Well,
We all
you
do
know,
it.
probably you don't, but
yeah, exactly. It's easily done. It's easily done. And your wardrobe should effectively just contain the clothes that you love to wear. So many women, like you've just said, you know, the fancy dress costume, something they wore to a prom 20 years ago, something, you know, sentimental pieces that somebody, loved one who maybe we don't have around us anymore, bought for us, and we keep it because of all those reasons. But actually, think of your wardrobe as your favorite boutique. I don't mean that filling it with new stuff. What I mean is when you open it up, it should be filled with clothes that fit you, that you love to wear, that you feel great in. It shouldn't be filled with items that you haven't worn for, you know, for 15 years and fancy dress costumes and things like that. Yeah.
Yes, I get all of this. This is all making making complete sense. I think that lots of people listening will be resonating with all of this, just like I am. Do you have any simple tips that people can put into place in their own lives as a starter for 10, until they get to a point where they can work with you if they're coming out of this traumatic experience?
I think the first thing is get a pen and paper and sit down and literally write down. Just write down who am I and how do I want to show up? How do I want to be seen? Wow. Yeah. Let the pen do the work. You might sit down to
writing it down
and you might be like, what the hell is going to come out? I promise you, the more you write, the more it will come out. And you might even find yourself getting a bit emotional, because that happens quite a lot, or when we go through this process. Spend some time. Anybody can do this for free. You can build your own mood board. Go on Pinterest, open up a board and do it like how I want to be seen, you know, and don't be sensible on this. This isn't the point to be sensible. This is the point just to see what really resonates. And then you can look in your wardrobe and go, is that matching? Yeah. And don't be too hard on your lifestyle at this. When I say hard, because some people might live in a uniform all week and then go, well, there's no point in doing that because I wear a uniform all week and then I'm at home all weekend. I'm not on about that. I'm on about, you know, really just deeply connecting with yourself. So those are a few tips for what you need to do. You must make sure it's authentic to you. The amount of people who get influenced, because we all have great friends in our lives and family in our lives. But I guarantee if you start asking other people, you'll be taking their opinions on board, not your own. So, you know, make this about you. Think of the colors that you like to wear as well. That's a whole other subject we could honestly talk about in a whole other podcast. But, you know, the colors that you wear and how they resonate, and whether you like color or not, and the fabrics that you like to wear. Think about those kind of things. When it comes down to your wardrobe, though, the quick tips I can give you there is, you know, spend a couple of hours in your wardrobe and just start pulling out pieces that you love to wear, first of all, and maybe pull out a piece and then try and style it with something different that you haven't worn it with. Because what happens is we all get in a habit of wearing the same item with the same item. Yeah, you see my point? You might pick out the same pair of trousers, wear it with the same pair of tops, or maybe pick out a pair of trousers and find 3 tops that go with that pair of trousers, and then pick out a jacket that goes with it as well. And don't overlook accessories and how accessories and shoes are the 2 things that can date and outdate, make an outfit look frumpy as easy as anything. Costume jewelry doesn't cost a lot of money, but the amount of women who keep like drawerfuls of plastic tat that we've had for years and go, well, I've got loads of jewelry. But just be careful, because jewelry is just one of those things that can like make or break an outfit, as the same as shoes and a handbag. And another tip is everything doesn't have to be matchy. People, you know, it used to be like shoes matched your handbag. Don't worry about that now. Metals don't have to match, you know, gold and silver together. And also don't live in black. You know, black is a colour. And I think it would certainly, when we're talking about divorce, I think it can be a colour that probably people can feel safe, very safe in, people hide in black. Let's not go there from the body shape and how people use it from that point of view, but it is a colour that people will wear if they're feeling down. Obviously, it's a colour that's associated with mourning. And let's be honest, when you're going through a divorce, it does feel like a mourning. So it will be something that people will gravitate towards. But just be careful if you're starting to literally hide yourself away in black. You don't want to do that. You don't want to fade into the background. You want to, you know, stand out and be yourself.
Oh, that's lovely. What a great place to end this conversation, because I've absolutely loved chatting to you. How can our listeners get in touch with you if they want to contact you?
Okay, well, I am on Instagram. I'd say that's probably the place that I hang out. You'll find me at Own Your Style UK, and you'll also find me, I have my branding site as well, which is linked through Own Your Style UK. So Own Your Style UK is my original account, which was all about style and kind of going into like my life and my wardrobe and my clothes. And the personal brand side of my business is on the personal branding side of it. And there I give lots of tips into setting out and discovering and building your own personal brand, so you're seen, heard and remembered, because so many people, so many women feel invisible in their lives, and I don't want them to feel like that. So you can connect with me there. My website is Own Your Style UK. Yeah, my website there. So yeah, those are the ways. I'm on LinkedIn as Janine Coney. So yeah, you can't get away from me, really.
That's good to know. I don't think we want to. We'll put all those links in the show notes so that people can get hold of you if they'd like to. And it just remains me to thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today, because it's been such a valuable conversation, and I know that our listeners will love it.
It's so much more than the clothes. People think, oh, do you just do this? It's like, no, it's so much deeper. I love what I do. Indeed. I feel very privileged to work with the women that I do, and thank you for having me today.
It's my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.